Once upon a time, there was this idealistic psychiatrist who felt that he wasn't helping his patients, that he wasn't able to cure their problems or make them much happier than they were when they first came to him. And he kept wondering why human beings were so unhappy and why they couldn't discover some magic potion that would somehow break through and help people be freer and happier. And he decided from reading in philosophy and Eastern religions that it was the self, it was being attached to ourself and attached to certain consistent habits, that this was what made people miserable. And instead of discovering meditation or retreat as a way to break people out of this self and get them detached from it, he discovered by accident that letting chance into his life permitted him to express parts of himself that hadn't been expressed before, and permitted his patients also to break out of their shells. And so he gets tremendously enthusiastic about this idea, and he wants to carry it as far as he can, even though he knows it's threatening his marriage, it might be upsetting to his children, it's going to get him fired from his job, and gets him in trouble with the authorities. All of these things happen. He takes this idea and he keeps running with it, and he becomes obsessed by it, and he feels that he ought to open himself to all options, even the negative options within him, namely the desire to kill, which he says is natural to every American who watches television, actually must have a desire to kill. And so he lets that become an option. And by the end of the novel, he's having to run away from the police and the FBI. He is still the dice man, rolling the dice. But it's not a happy ending, because we feel, Luke, you're lost in some way. You've shown us something that we probably are going to find intriguing and about life and about decision making. But you yourself have carried it too far.
In each individual, I'm talking to the possibilities, your unexplored lives, your unexplored personalities, your unexplored desires, your unexplored emotions. All of these are what I hope chance can let you get in touch with. It's not easy. You don't become addicted to the die. You're addicted to not dicing, to not taking risks. The dice are anti-addiction. In the beginning was chance, and chance was God, and chance was with God, and everything flowed from chance. And the die is our shepherd, and we shall not want. The die maketh us to lie down in green pastures, to commit evil, and to commit good.
I was at school in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was one of those books that everyone used to pass around. And I read it first when I was about 15 or 16. I was really impressed by it. Mainly what I was impressed by actually was the humour of it. I thought it was a really, really funny book. I also loved the idea. The idea was very seductive, the idea that you could make decisions simply by throwing a dice, and that in doing so, you would be liberating certain parts of your personality. I found that whole idea very exciting. We threw the dice, me and a mate of mine. We ended up bunking off school. We ended up coming down to Brighton. At the time I lived in London. We ended up getting drunk in a few pubs, getting thrown out of a few pubs, and finally I ended up in this dreary little bedsit in Hove, in Brunswick Square, trying to copulate with this godforsaken hooker who seemed as appalled by the experience as I was, in fact, you know. It was a very sordid experience, but afterwards the fella I was with was taking the mick, just on the grounds that I'd been with a hooker. It's kind of something you're not supposed to do ever in life, I think. And I suddenly realised that I'd actually done something that most of my mates hadn't done. And it became a way... The dice was quite handy in that sense, in that it gave me an excuse to do stuff that would otherwise look quite disreputable and quite horrible. And that was quite handy. But after that, I put them to one side. I put the dice to one side, and I never did it again for years after that. I didn't do the dice again. But that one experience in Brighton, the bunking off school, the coming down here, the getting drunk, the going with a hooker, it was a revelatory experience, because in a sense you could blame everything on the dice.
I picked up the die and said to myself, if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, I'll go back to bed. But if it's a 6, I'll go downstairs and ask Jake if I can rape his wife again.
It was recommended to me by some psychiatric nurses who were doing their training, and they said it was their Bible handbook type book and it was worth the read, so I read it then.
I remember it as quite a dark book.
Then met Rachel and gave it to her to read.
Yeah, so I read it a couple of months ago, I think it was.
And just the sense of everything caving in, this idea that, you know, just by throwing some dice, your entire life can just, your whole personality can just be dissolved. And the whole structure of your life can be dissolved.
It didn't kind of jog me straight away, but certainly a few years later I thought, yeah, there is an itch that I cannot scratch, but would like to.
At the time of reading the book, I was actually quite happy in my life. I had a steady girlfriend, steady job, so I wasn't so keen in practicing the dice at that stage.
I saw somebody that I really liked, and I said, you know what? God, I don't think I have the nerve to chat her up. If I roll a 6, I'm gonna go talk to her. And I rolled a 6, and I went. It was like I had this power behind me. Oh yes, I have to do this now. You know, it's like a dare or performing a command for a command that somebody's given you. I went and talked to her, and we got on great. I was relaxed because everything was taken away from me. It had nothing to do with me. It was down to the die. And it was this wonderful feeling. I wound up dating her for 6 months. It was great.
As time sort of grew on, I found that my life was becoming more and more uncertain. I was in my early 20s, and the idea of maybe playing around with my lifestyle and my personality appealed to me, and that's when I sort of picked up the the doctrine of the ways of the dice.
There was a sense of risk because of this feeling that you, no matter how jokey or ironic or whatever you're being, that you still don't disobey the dice. So there was always that element to it.
During a period of my dice living, friends would come into I was living in a bedsit. Friends would come into my bedsit and just find sort of thousands of pieces of A4 paper just strewn across the room with 6 options on it.
What else might the dice decide? That I sell all my stock, or buy all I could afford? That I make love to Arlene in our double bed while my wife sleeps on the other side? That I bluff every time when playing poker? That I give up my home, my friends, my profession?
you know, we would sort of see girls in the nightclub that we quite liked, and I remember one particular night there were 3 girls that I liked. So one was number 1 and 2, the second one was 3 and 4, and the third one was 5 and 6. And the dice chose one of the girls. I then went up to her and talked to her, and I had 6 options of what to say to her, you know, ranging from the sort of, you know, hi, my name's Jake, do you want to fuck me, through to sort of very sort of coy bashfulness.
When I was working on a newspaper at the time, I was a fashion editor, and the Dice instructed me to actually run a Dice dictated fashion page, and the Dice instructed that I should go and shoot some models down on a farm in Dorset with kind of chickens and cows and hay bales. There was nothing behind it, but so, you know, we got a whole load of gingham skirts and cowboy boots together and did it, and it was a perfectly nice fashion page, but the joke was, you know, only I knew that that was a Dice dictated fashion page.
I mean, it did get kind of weird after a while. I smashed a neighbour's window with a brick. You know, you can commit the perfect crime. I mean, why would I smash this person's window with a brick? You know, the only thing I don't have is an alibi, but there's no reason for me to do it. You know, and that was quite interesting. When I did it, I actually just stood. I ran sort of about 100 metres and then just stood at the bottom of the road and watched him running out of the door, and looked around and saw me down the road, and obviously didn't think it was going to be me because there's absolutely no reason.
In the book, his entire personality is down to the die. I couldn't do that. I use it for 3 reasons. I use it for fun, you know, a night out. I use it for fun. Pick a number on the die, 1 through 6, a night that I'm not expecting. Good, go get your own chair, goddammit.
Get your own chair, mate. Does your mother know that you are this perverted?
I use it when I really, really desperately want to do something that I shouldn't do. Because it's like an excuse, you know? It's like, if I was a Catholic, it's like I've made my confession already. I can do whatever I want, I'm still going to heaven, you know?
I mean, the joke was on the people at the Gavroche when the Dice told us to take Nick there for his birthday, and that we chose our food by rolling the dice, and we chose the wine by rolling the dice. So the joke really was on the kind of very stiff, formal, you know, unrelaxed waiters and sommeliers of the Gavroche, rather than anything. It was just a way of sort of practical jokery, and it just sounds so stupid now, but it was just very funny. Nothing dark to it at all. No murder, no raping of neighbours, nothing like that. I mean, except this notion, but even that was kind of silly, that, you know, thou must not disobey the dice. In fact, we did disobey the dice that evening because the dice ordered an awful lot of wine, and Matthew drank quite a lot of wine and then fell asleep at the table. And the dice then ordered Nick and I to leave him there without paying the bill, just to leave Matthew asleep at the table. But I couldn't go through with it. So I insisted that we woke him up. So then I did disobey the dice.
Leaving my wife had been hard, although I sneer at my anxieties now. But killing someone seemed no more difficult than holding up a drugstore or robbing a bank.